And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Roster Report here on LIV Radio, LIV TV here on livinginblack.com. My name is Kidi Awadu, aka the Conscious Roster. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa Time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives. We deal with entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Friday. Today is the 23rd day of January 2026 in the Western calendar, the Gregorian calendar. This corresponds to the year 6266 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIV Radio, LIV TV, and on livinginblack.com. Well, today is for me an exciting day. I have ever so quietly in the background prepared another book for publication, and I hope to be able to send this one to the printer rather quickly. You may have recalled during December we were supposed to have a group session of book writing. My book, From Pen to Power, 90 Days to Write and Publish Your Book, was the basis of the course. And nobody joined the class. But I had to do it anyway. So I put my pen to power. And I'm going to show you the first of several books that I will be releasing in this upcoming season. And I have an exciting plan to get you excited about the books and excited about what you can do. So let's imagine that we are going to do the best that we can do. Here is what is the introduction for today's program, if you don't mind. Welcome to the Conscious Roster Report. And the program theme today is the conscious roots, growth, heritage, and the biology of being, part 1. I'm your host, Kidi Awadu, exploring how our inner growth is woven into ancestral wisdom and the living earth. From cellular memory to cultural legacy, we'll uncover how healing ourselves heals the collective. This conversation is rooted in science, spirit, and story. Let's grow together. So that is what our theme is for today. I hope you do enjoy what you're going to be hearing. And if you do, let us know. Do hit the like button and join us. Put a word into the chat and let us know that you are listening to the program today. We're happy to have you with us. And just really pleased to be here, to be able to deliver something that I think the community really does appreciate and can definitely use to empower ourselves. So here's the program. I'm going to put this over here on my other screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put my book up. Now, you're not going to see the book. Right now, I'm just giving hints. As you did log in for today's show, you should have been able to see the book cover. Let me see if I've got that up here again. The book cover is over here. Fade that to that. Go back to here and put this up here. I'm looking for my green screen option. And bear with me, I think I can show it to you. I have a lot of stuff on my desktop right now. Where is that green screen? Show the green screen, and there you can see the outline to my new logo. Of course, you can only see part of it. because that is itself green screened. But let me go back over here, turn this off, and turn this off, and let's go back and show you me, and let's talk about the book. Let's us talk about this new book. The book is entitled The Conscious Roots, Growth, Heritage, and the Biology of Being. Now, I got to do one more thing. Let me turn this back on. My green screen, turn it back on. And now we are in place. And let's get back to our show. Where is the book? It's here. The Conscious Roots, Growth, Heritage, and the Biology of Being by Kidiobi Awadu, copyright 2026 from Black Star Media. And let me just go right into the first chapter of the book, the first section of the book, Growth, Heritage, and the Biology of Being. And I began each chapter with a quote. This from Marcus Mosiah Garvey. A people without a knowledge of their history is like a tree with no roots. Marcus Garvey, Pan-Africanist extraordinaire. We began with this introductory paragraph, or introductory chapter, the seed and the soil. Prologue, defining the conscious root. This parable, told across many cultures, a tree that forgets its roots will bear no fruit. Yet in our modern world, we have been taught to believe that growth means leaving the past behind. And here, bear with me, I see, I'm going to be correcting this all along, so I'm not going to worry about that. We're taught that growth means leaving the past behind, that progress requires severing our connections to what came before. We chase after innovation while dismissing tradition as superstition. We pursue individual achievement while ignoring collective wisdom. And we measure success in how far we've climbed rather than how deeply we are rooted. This is the fundamental error of our age. The conscious root represents a different understanding entirely. It is the reception that true growth, the kind that sustains us through storms and nourishes future generations, requires us to acknowledge and to, bear with me here, let me make sure I got this, and to acknowledge we measure how this is a fundamental error of our age. Okay, I'm on page, sorry about that. But the conscious root represents a different approach, understanding entirely. It is the recognition that true growth, the kind that sustains us through storms and nourishes future generations, requires us to acknowledge and to honor both our biological reality and our ancestral identity. Like a mighty oak that draws strength from soil enriched by centuries of fallen leaves, we too must recognize that our bodies carry the wisdom of countless generations, and that our potential for growth is intimately connected to the depth of our roots. Consider for the moment the seed. Within its modest shell lies an entire blueprint for life, coded not just with instructions for leaves and branches, but with memories of droughts survived, of seasons endured, of adaptations made across millennia. The seed knows nothing of the sun. It is never seen. Yet it carries within it the knowledge of how to reach toward light. This is not merely a metaphor. This is biology. This is the inheritance written into every cell. We are no different. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern science. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples across the globe have understood that Western science is only now beginning to validate that we are not separate from our ancestors, that the traumas and triumphs of previous generations live on in us, and that healing requires us to address not just our individual wounds, but the very collective memory encoded in our very beings. The Rastafari tradition of I and I, a profound recognition that the self and the divine, the individual and the collective, are not separate but interconnected. Our experience immediately recalls the words Ubuntu of Zulu origin, which translates to I am because we are. This isn't mysticism divorced from reality. It's a philosophical framework that anticipated what scientists would later discover in laboratories equipped with electron microscopes and gene sequencers. The elders who taught that our ancestors walk with us weren't speaking in mere poetry. They were describing a biological truth that modern epigenetics has now confirmed. Epigenetics, the study of how behaviors and environment can cause changes in the way genes work, has revealed something extraordinary. Our DNA is not a fixed instruction manual, but a living, responsive text that can be edited by experience. When our grandparents faced famine, their bodies adapted, and those adaptations were passed down. When our grandparents endured trauma, chemical markers were placed on their genes, switches that could be flipped on or off in their descendants. We inherit not just eye color and height, but stress responses, survival strategies, and cellular memories of resilience. This is the soil in which we grow. Indigenous practices, from the Amazon to the African continent, have long incorporated rituals of ancestral remembrance, recognizing that to heal ourselves, we must also heal our relationship with those who came before. The practice of pouring libations, of speaking names of the departed, of maintaining connections with other lineage, those are not quaint customs, but sophisticated psychological and spiritual technologies for maintaining what we might now call epigenetic integrity. Now here, bear with me. I'm going to be right with you one sec. And let me just, it's a little complicated over here. Okay. The biology of being. Modern biology tells us that the human body is not a single organism, but an ecosystem, a colony of trillions of cells working in concert, hosting billions of bacteria essential to our survival, all in constant communication through chemical signals, so complex we're only beginning to decode them. The gut produces more neurotransmitters than the brain. The heart has its own neural network that sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to it. We are quite literally more plural than singular. This biology mirrors reality. This biology reality mirrors the social and spiritual truth that we are never truly alone, never simply individuals operating in isolation. Just as our bodies are communities of cooperating cells, we are members of families, lineages, cultures, and ecosystems. The myth of the self-made individual, the person who pulls themselves up by their bootstraps with no debt to past or community, is as false as imagining a single cell could survive without the body that sustains it. Rastafari philosophy embraces this with the concept of, quote, livity, a way of living that acknowledges our connection to all life, that recognizes the food we eat becomes our flesh. The air we breathe was exhaled by trees. The water in our bodies has cycled through clouds and rivers since the dawn of time. This is not poetry superimposed on reality. This is reality itself, accurately perceived. When we eat food grown in depleted soil, treated with chemicals that disrupt our cellular function, we are quite literally disconnected from the earth. When we live in environments divorced from natural rhythms, flooded with artificial light, and surrounded by synthetic materials, our bodies, which evolved over millions of years in intimate relationship with nature, began to malfunction. The epidemic of chronic disease in modern society is not merely a medical problem, but a crisis of disconnection. Why this matters now? And I see you in the house, Brother Eddie. He says, greetings, Brother Keedy. It's great to be with you. Absolutely. It's a very positive. Let me make sure that my Rumble family, if they are in the house, they get acknowledged as well. 1 second. And I don't see anyone checking with me right there, but I know you are in the house. And I do know that you do care, and we care about you as well. So going forward, never backward, why this matters now. We stand at a crossroads. The dominant culture tells us that progress means transcending our biology, conquering nature, leaving behind old ways. Technology promises to upload our consciousness, edit our genes, optimize our bodies as if they were machines to be upgraded. This path leads not to liberation, but to a deeper alienation from the very source of our strength. The alternative is the path of the conscious root, to grow not by denying our nature, but by honoring it, not by severing connections, but by deepening them, not by forgetting where we came from, but by drawing strength from that knowing. This book is an invitation to that path. In the pages that follow, we will explore how the latest discoveries in biology, neuroscience, and genetics validate what indigenous wisdom keepers and Rastafari philosophers have long understood. We will examine how practices like meditation, plant medicine, and community ritual produce measurable changes in gene expression. We will investigate how reconnecting with ancestral food ways, traditional movement practices, and natural environments can heal not just individuals, but entire communities. Most importantly, we will reclaim more complete understanding of what it means to grow, not as isolated individuals racing toward an imagined future, but as conscious beings rooted in biology and heritage, branches reaching toward the sun while drawing nourishment from depths our modern culture has taught us to forget. The seed knows the soil. The soil remembers the seed. We are both, and we are the fruit that will become the seed again. This is the conscious root. This is the biology of being. Let's go into part one of the book. Now, the book is divided into three sections. The first section deals with wellness. The second section deals with science. And the third section deals with vitality. Wellness, science, and vitality. Part one is wellness, science, and vitality. And there's a quote here I share from Dr. Leroy Hood. From his book, The Age of Scientific Wellness, he states, "You cannot hope to understand a state of disease if you don't understand a state of wellness." That's really very serious. The green and plant elements. Relationship between human vitality and plant life runs deeper than nutrition alone. When we consume plants, we're not merely ingesting calories and vitamins. We're participating in an ancient conversation between species, one that has shaped our biology at the cellular level. That is really deep. Modern phytochemistry reveals what traditional herbalists have always known. Plants produce thousands of compounds that interact with our bodies in profound ways. Polyphenols from berries activate longevity pathways. Compounds in cruciferous vegetables support detoxification systems. The chlorophyll that gives plants their green color shares a nearly identical molecular structure to our own hemoglobin, differing only in the central atom, magnesium in plants and iron in blood. We are quite literally kin to the green world. The Ital diet of Rastafari tradition emphasizes living foods. That was my own introduction into this conscious eating. Plants consumed close to their natural state, recognizing that vitality transfers from soil to plant to body. Science now confirms this wisdom through studies showing that fresh, minimally processed plant foods contain not just nutrients, but information. MicroRNAs and other signaling molecules that communicate directly with our genes, influencing inflammation, metabolism, and cellular repair. Beyond nutrition, the mere presence of plants affects our well-being. Research demonstrates that time spent among greenery lowers cortisol, reduces blood pressure, and enhances immune function. The Japanese practice of shirin-yoku, or forest bathing, produces measurable improvements in natural killer cell activity. Even viewing plants through a window accelerates hospital recovery times. This isn't sentimentality. It's biology acknowledging its origins. We evolved in green environments, and our nervous systems remain calibrated to them. The color green itself occupies the center of the visible spectrum, the frequency our eyes process most efficiently, suggesting millions of years of adaptation to plant-rich landscapes. Wellness, then, is not achieved through supplements and interventions alone, but through remembering and restoring our functional relationship with the green world. The plants don't just sustain us, they complete us, filling in the missing pieces of a biological puzzle we were never meant to solve in isolation from nature. Our focus on wellness, science, and vitality through green and plant elements begins with a simple truth. Human biology evolved in continuous relationship with the living world. Green spaces and plant-rich environments do more than please the eye. They speak directly to physiology, psychology, and cellular health. When people surround themselves with plants, indoors, outdoors, or on their plates, they engage in ancient partnership that supports resilience, clarity, and longevity. Scientifically, plants act as quiet regulators of the spaces humans inhabit. Through photosynthesis and transpiration, they help refresh the air, modulate humidity, and soften the physiological burden of modern indoor living, which is often defined by stale air, artificial light, and chronic stress. At the same time, green visual input calms the nervous system, easing the fight or flight response, and making room for rest, recovery, and deeper focus. In workspaces, homes, and healing environments, living foliage becomes a biological ally, nudging blood pressure, mood, and cognition toward healthier baselines. On the nutritional level, plant foods deliver the molecular architecture of vitality. Leafy greens, herbs, seaweeds, and other phytonutrient-rich plants provide antioxidants, minerals, and bioactive compounds that help neutralize oxidative stress, balance inflammation, and support mitochondrial function, the very engines of energy production. This is not just quote unquote eating healthy in a vague sense. It is targeted biochemical support for brain function, immune integrity, and metabolic flexibility. The more diverse and colorful the plant intake, the broader the spectrum of support. Finally, engaging intentionally with green elements, gardening, tending houseplants, walking among trees, creates a feedback loop between inner and outer ecology. As people cultivate plants, they also cultivate presence, patience, and a felt sense of connection that counters the fragmentation of digital life. In this way, the green and plant elements are not aesthetic extras, but central pillars of a wellness model where science and lived vitality are rooted in the same soil. So that brings us up to chapter 1. Now I'm going to go real briskly, real quickly through the book as fast as I can for the classes. Because again, I state, this book is going to the printer real quickly in just a few days. And I'm actually quite proud of that. Chapter 1, The Temple Within. Now, those were the prologue and the introduction to the sections of the book. Now we are at chapter 1. There are about 11 chapters of the book I'm going to be sharing with you. Chapter 1, The Temple Within. This quote is from Marianne Williamson. She's the author of Midlife Awakening. She writes, and I quote, "Your relationship with love is your relationship with the essence of who you are. It affects your relationship with your body and your relationship with food. When you realize that you are a spirit and that this body is a temple, then you want to treat it well." Marianne Williamson, author of Midlife Awakening. Chapter 1 begins with the subchapter Introduction to Beyond the Machine Metaphor. For centuries, Western medicine has operated on a fundamental metaphor, the body as a machine. In this view, organs are components, diseases are malfunctions, and treatment means replacing parts or adjusting mechanisms. This framework has given us remarkable surgical techniques and pharmaceutical interventions, but it has also blinded us to a deeper truth that ancient traditions never forgot. The body is not a machine, it is a temple, a living, breathing ecosystem of staggering complexity, and intelligence, where trillions of organisms cooperate in an intricate dance of mutual sustenance. To treat the body as mere machinery is to miss the sacred nature of the biological miracle occurring within us at every moment. The Rastafari concept of the body as temple is not metaphorical flourish, but precise observation. A temple is not built and forgotten. It requires tending, respect, and conscious stewardship. It is a space where the material and the spiritual converge, where science and devotion, where discipline and devotion maintain the conditions for transformation. When we understand our bodies as temples, as ecosystems requiring reverence and care, we fundamentally shift our relationship to health, disease, and vitality itself. Let's talk about the ecosystem of self, cellular civilization. Consider this. When you are not one being, but approximately 37 trillion cells, each one a living organism in its own right, each containing the complete blueprint of your genetic code, 37 trillion, each making thousands of decisions every second. These cells form tissues, organs, and systems that communicate through an elaborate network of chemical signals, electrical impulses, and mechanical pressures so sophisticated that we're only beginning to comprehend their complexity. Your heart beats roughly 100,000 times per day without conscious direction. Your lungs exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide in tiny air sacs whose combined surface area, if spread flat, would cover a tennis court. Your liver performs over 500 distinct functions, from filtering toxins to producing, and bear with me, my computer's acting funny, to producing proteins to storing energy. Your kidneys filter your blood volume dozens of times daily, maintaining precise chemical balances essential to life. None of this requires your conscious intervention. The intelligence operating within you predates thought, predates language, predates the emergence of modern humans entirely. It is ancient wisdom, refined across billions of years of evolution, encoded in every cell. Let's talk about cellular communication and coherence. What we call health is really coherence, the harmonious operation of this cellular civilization. Cells communicate constantly through neurotransmitters, hormones, cytokines, and countless other signaling molecules. They respond to their environment, adapting gene expression in real time based on the nutrients available, the stresses encountered, the information received from neighboring cells. This is where the temple metaphor becomes particularly apt. Just as a temple requires all its elements, foundation, pillars, altar, roof, to work in concert, your body thrives only when all its systems maintain communication and cooperation. A breakdown in cellular communication is often the root of disease. Cancer, for instance, is fundamentally a failure of cells to respond to signals telling them when to stop dividing. Autoimmune conditions arise when the immune system loses the ability to distinguish self from non-self, attacking the very temple it was designed to protect. The Rastafari emphasis on maintaining temple purity, avoiding substances that pollute the body, finds validation in cellular biology. When we introduce toxins, excessive processed foods, or chronic stress, we disrupt cellular communication. We create static in the system, making it harder for cells to coordinate their intricate dance. The microbiome. We are never alone. The inner ecosystem. Perhaps the most revolutionary discovery in modern biology has been the microbiome, the vast community of bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other microorganisms living in and on our bodies. We carry roughly as many microbial cells as human cells, weighing collectively about 3 pounds, with the gut microbiome alone containing more genetic diversity than our own genome by a factor of 100 to 1. These are not mere passengers or parasites. They are essential partners in the ecosystem of self. They produce vitamins that we cannot make on our own, including B vitamins and vitamin K. They break down complex carbohydrates our digestive enzymes cannot process, extracting nutrients and producing short-chain fatty acids that feed the cells lining our intestines. They train our immune systems, teaching them to distinguish friend from foe. They produce neurotransmitters, including the majority of the body's serotonin, directly influencing mood and cognition. The gut microbiome communicates constantly with the brain through what scientists call the gut-brain axis, involving the vagus nerve, immune signaling, and microbial metabolites that cross into the bloodstream. Depression, anxiety, and even neurodegenerative diseases show clear connections to the composition and the health of gut bacteria. We quite literally think with our biome. Cultivating this inner garden. Ancient dietary traditions understood this implicitly. Fermented foods appearing across cultures, from Korean kimchi to Ethiopian injera to Caribbean pepper sauce, support microbial diversity. The emphasis in traditional diets on fiber-rich plants, whole grains, and diverse vegetables feeds beneficial bacteria that produce compounds protecting against inflammation and disease. The ITAL approach to food recognizes that what we eat becomes us. But modern science reveals this is more literal than we knew. The microbiome shifts within hours of dietary changes, and sustained dietary patterns reshape the entire ecosystem. When we eat processed foods high in sugar and low in fiber, we starve beneficial bacteria while feeding opportunistic species that promote inflammation and metabolism function. Treating the body as a temple means tending this inner garden with the same care as a gardener brings to soil. Diversity, balance, and living foods creates the conditions for microbial flourishing, which in turn creates the conditions of our own vitality. Livity, vital energy through the lens of biology. In Rastafari philosophy, livity encompasses more than mere physical health. It represents the vital life force, the quality of being fully alive, the energy that flows through a person living in alignment with natural law. Western science, with its reductionist intent, has historically dismissed such concepts as unmeasurable, and therefore meaningless. Yet modern biology increasingly reveals measurable correlates to what traditional wisdom calls vital energy. When we examine the markers of biological vitality, cellular energy production, mitochondrial function, inflammation levels, oxidative stress, telomere length, gene expression patterns, we find that they respond precisely to the practices that traditions like Rastafari have long prescribed for maintaining livity. Mitochondria, the fire within. At the cellular level, livity finds its physical manifestation in the mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell. These remarkable organelles descended from ancient bacteria that entered into symbiosis with our cellular ancestors billions of years ago, convert oxygen and nutrients into ATP, the energy currency of life. The efficiency and health of mitochondrial function determines our capacity for vitality. When mitochondria function optimally, we experience energy, mental clarity, physical stamina, and resilience to stress. When mitochondrial function declines, we experience fatigue, brain fog, and accelerated aging. Nearly every chronic disease involves some degree of mitochondrial dysfunction. What supports mitochondrial health? The same practices emphasized in traditional approaches to vital living. Whole foods, rich in nutrients and antioxidants, regular movement that signals the body to build more mitochondria, intermittent fasting that triggers cellular cleanup processes, connection with natural light rhythms that regulate circadian biology, and minimizing exposure to toxins that damage these delicate structures. Talking about the coherence of systems. Livity also manifests as coherence across biological systems. Heart rate variability, the variation in time between heartbeats, serves as a marker of nervous system flexibility and resilience. Higher variability indicates a nervous system that can smoothly shift between sympathetic activation and parasympathetic rest, responding appropriately to circumstances rather than being locked in chronic stress. Practices like meditation, breath work, time in nature, and community connection all increase heart rate variability. These same practices appear across spiritual traditions as methods for cultivating life force, whether called livity, prana, chi, or pneuma. What the traditions understood experientially, science now measures. These practices create biological coherence, allowing energy to flow efficiently through the system rather than being dissipated in internal conflict. Next, living foods and living energy. The emphasis in ital livity on fresh living foods also finds biological support. When plants are alive or freshly harvested, they contain not just stable nutrients, but living compounds, enzymes that aid digestion, microRNAs that regulate gene expression, biophotons that some researchers suggest may play a role in cellular communication. These elements diminish rapidly after harvest and are destroyed entirely by processing. The energetic difference between eating a fresh salad from the garden and eating processed food from a package is not imaginary, it's biochemical. The living food provides concentrated vitality, information, and building blocks for cellular renewal. The processed food provides calories, but lacks the complex symphony of compounds that support true flourishing. Tending the temple. integration and practice. Understanding the body as temple and ecosystem transform how we approach daily life. Each choice becomes an act of stewardship. Sleep is not laziness, but essential maintenance, allowing the glymphatic system to clear metabolic waste from the brain, allowing cells throughout the body to completely repair processes that only occur during rest. Movement is not punishment, but celebration, signaling every cell that we are vital and capable, triggering beneficial gene expression and strengthening the systems that sustain us. Stress management becomes not optional, but essential. Chronic stress hormones disrupt every system in the body, from immune function to digestion to cellular repair. Community and connection are not mere pleasantries, but biological necessities. Loneliness and isolation create inflammatory states as harmful as smoking. The temple within requires what all sacred spaces require: regular attendance, mindful care, protection from defilement, and recognition of the profound mystery occurring within its walls. When we approach our bodies with this reverence, when we make choices that honor the ecosystem rather than exploit the machine, we discover what the traditions have always known: that vitality is not something we pursue externally, but something we cultivate from within, through alignment with the ancient wisdom encoded in every cell. This is the practical spirituality of the body as temple. This is liberty understood through biology. This is the path of the conscious root, growing strong because it honors both the science of what we are and the sacredness of the life force that animates it all. Ashe. That is chapter 1. And again, for those of you just tuning in, I am today going through my upcoming book. I'm really excited to be sharing this with you all today. And I hope you do love what we are sharing. And I'm not seeing anyone checking in on the Rumble page. So somehow, some way, the Rumble just didn't get the word out. And I love you all being with us to the best of our abilities. We're going to do the best we can with what the Creator has blessed us with. I only have a message from Eddie. I don't know what that's about. That's not the message. There is another couple of messages coming through. Oh, and for those of you who have been following your brother, I'm very proud to say yesterday, I do my exercises. I have like 10 different exercise periods all day long. I wake up, I do one set for 20 minutes. I go outside, do HIIT. Then in the early afternoon, I'm doing Tai Chi, push-ups, Tai Chi, push-ups, Tai Chi, third set of push-ups. Why do I do Tai Chi so much? Because it ramps my body up for the push-ups. But yesterday, for the first time ever in my entire life, I was able to accomplish in 3 push-up sets 1,050 push-ups. Now, right now, I'm doing so many as I'm preparing myself to break my single set of push-ups record. It now stands at 465. By doing 3 sets of 350, I am strengthening my body up, conditioning my heart and my will and my lungs and everything up to going past that. I think I can accomplish 500 push-ups in a single set. I'm talking about no break, no stop, just push them out. I think I can do that, and I think I will do that soon. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I have to pump myself up and gear it up, which is why doing the Tai Chi leads me into the push-ups. And once I get started, I just keep going and going and going and going and going. Of course, 350 is still 150 away from 500. So it's a little bit of work. But for the first time, I did 3 sets of 350 push-ups in one day. Now, I'm very proud of that. Now, at a certain point, I will be cutting back, but I thought I was going to do that a little while ago, as my standard was I'm going to just do 600 a day. I had been doing 500 a day, but then this year I ramped it up again to 600 a day, but now it is over 750 push-ups every day. So yesterday, 1,050. That's 300 over my daily 750, which is an acceptable day. 750 is to me acceptable. Less than that, So give me applause. Give me a little slap on the back, somebody. Let me know that you appreciate of that. Even if it's just you and me, Brother Eddie. We're going to do the best we can. I'm going to go and take another chapter. We got through 3 sections of the book. Let's go into chapter 2, which is entitled, you're going to like this, Eddie, Rhythms of the Earth. I begin this chapter with a quote, this time from Susie Kassem, from her book, Rise Up and Salute the Sun. She writes, if you study the rhythm of life on this planet, you will find that everything moves in perfect symphony with everything else by grand divine design. And that even includes Donald Trump. Yes, he's included in the rhythm of life because without stress, without some means, some method of chaos, we would have no order. We couldn't appreciate order. We couldn't appreciate the calm without the chaos. The ancient drum still beats. Before there were clocks, before electricity conquered darkness, before humanity believed it could separate itself from nature's timing, we lived by rhythms older than our species. The sun rose and we woke. The sun set and we rested. The moon waxed and waned, pulling not just ocean tides, but the waters within our own bodies. The seasons turned, and we moved with them, planting and harvesting, storing and celebrating, our bodies calibrated to the great wheel of the year. These rhythms did not merely surround us, they composed us. Over millions of years, they wrote themselves into our cells, our hormones, our very DNA. We are quite literally children of light and darkness, of the Earth's rotation and the moon's pull, of seasonal abundance and scarcity. To ignore these rhythms is to wage war against our own biology. The Rastafari understanding of living in harmony with Jah's creation, of respecting natural law, of recognizing that we are part of nature rather than separate from it. This is not primitive thinking to be discarded in our modern age. It is sophisticated wisdom that modern chronobiology, the science of biological rhythms, now validates with every study. The elders who rose with the sun and rested when darkness fell were not simply following tradition. They were honoring an intelligence deeper than culture, inscribed in every cell. Yet, we live in a world that has declared war on natural rhythms. We flood our nights with artificial light. We eat the same foods regardless of season. We maintain constant indoor temperatures year-round. We work shifts that rotate against our biology. We scroll glowing screens until midnight. We wake to alarm clocks rather than sunrise. We travel across time zones and expect our bodies to adjust instantly. The consequences of this disconnection are not minor inconveniences, but fundamental breakdowns in the systems that sustain life. Sleep disorders, metabolic disease, depression, immune dysfunction, cancer, and cognitive decline. These modern epidemics share a common root in our severing from natural cycles. We have built a civilization that treats the body's need for rhythm as weakness to be overcome rather than wisdom to be honored. The path back to health, both individual and collective, requires reconnecting with the rhythms that shaped us. This is not romantic nostalgia for a pre-industrial past, but a practical necessity for a viable future. The Earth's rhythms continue whether we acknowledge them or not. Our bodies respond to them whether we consciously align with them or not. The question is whether we will move with these ancient patterns or continue fighting against them at tremendous cost. The master clock, circadian wisdom, written in light. Let's talk about this internal timekeeper. Deep in the center of your brain, just above where the optic nerves cross, sits a cluster of about 20,000 neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Suprachiasmatic nucleus. This tiny region, no larger than a grain of rice, serves as your body's master clock, orchestrating rhythms that pulse through every organ, every tissue, every cell. But here's what makes this remarkable. Even if you were placed in complete darkness, isolated from any time cues, this clock would continue its roughly 24-hour cycle. It's not learned, but innate, not cultural, but biological. You are born with the rhythm of Earth encoded within you, a timepiece that has been ticking in your ancestors for millions of years, refined through countless generations to match the planet's rotation with extraordinary precision. Yet, this internal timekeeper, for all its precision, is designed to be synchronized by external cues, primarily light. Specialized cells in your retina, distinct from the rods and cones used for vision, detect light, especially the blue wavelengths abundant in morning sunlight, and send signals directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, resetting the clock each day. This is called entrainment, the process by which internal rhythms align with external cycles. Our ancestors understood this implicitly. They greeted the dawn, felt the sun on their skin, moved and worked in daylight, and rested when darkness came. This simple pattern synchronized every system in their bodies to the Earth's rotation. Modern science reveals that this synchronization is not optional for optimal health. It is essential, as fundamental to well-being as nutrition or movement. When the master clock receives clear light signals, bright exposure in the morning, darkness at night, it conducts a precise symphony of hormonal and metabolic changes across the day. But when light signals are confused, insufficient daylight exposure, artificial light at night, the blue glow of screens at all hours, the conductor loses its baton and the orchestra falls into discord. Next, the hormonal symphony across 24 hours. When your circadian rhythm functions properly, orchestrated by natural light exposure, your body conducts a precise hormonal symphony across the 24-hour cycle, each instrument entering at its appointed time, each contributing to the coherent whole. In the hours before dawn, while you still sleep, cortisol begins its ascent. This is not the pathological cortisol of chronic stress, but its healthy form, the hormone that mobilizes energy for the day ahead. By the time you wake, cortisol has risen sharply, increasing alertness, raising body temperature, elevating blood pressure slightly, preparing every system for activity. This cortisol awakening response is one of the most reliable circadian rhythms in human biology. As morning progresses, other changes cascade through your physiology. Digestive enzymes increase, preparing for food intake. Testosterone peaks in men during these early hours, highest in the morning, declining through the day. Cognitive function sharpens. Morning is most people think most clearly. Morning is when most people think most clearly. When problem-solving abilities peak, when complex mental work becomes easiest. Throughout the day, as the sun arcs across the sky, body temperature continues rising, reaching its peak in late afternoon or early evening. This is when physical performance peaks, when coordination is sharpest, when athletes set records. Reaction times are fastest, grip strength is the greatest. The body is fully activated, fully capable. As evening approaches and natural light dims, a profound shift begins. The pineal gland, a small endocrine organ deep in the brain, starts producing melatonin, the hormone of darkness. Melatonin is often misunderstood as merely a sleep aid, but its function extend far beyond inducing drowsiness. It is a powerful antioxidant, scavenging free radicals throughout the body and brain. It regulates immune function, coordinating the nightly activation of immune cells that survey for pathogens and damaged cells. It orchestrates cellular repair processes that can only occur during rest. But melatonin production requires darkness, not dimness, not the ambient glow of streetlights through curtains, not the LED indicators on electronics, and certainly not the bright screens of phones, tablets, and computers. True darkness. Even relatively dim light, as low as 10 lux, about the brightness of a night light, can suppress melatonin production by 50% or more. Bright indoor lighting or screen exposure in the evening can suppress it almost entirely. Without adequate melatonin, the entire nocturnal phase of the circadian rhythm is compromised. Sleep becomes shallow and fragmented, never reaching the deep restorative stages essential for physical repair and memory consolidation. The immune system's nightly surveillance is impaired. Cellular cleanup processes that prevent the accumulation of damaged proteins, potentially important for preventing neurodegenerative diseases, operate less efficiently. Throughout the night, other hormones pulse in precise patterns. Growth hormone surges during deep sleep, especially in the first half of the night, promoting tissue repair and regeneration. Prolactin rises, supporting immune function and metabolic regulation. Leptin, the satiety hormone, increases while ghrelin, the hunger hormone, decreases, which is why sleep deprivation leads to increased appetite and weight gain. This is not one system, but every system dancing to the Earth's rhythm. When we disrupt this dance with artificial light, irregular sleep, shift work, or the constant blue glow of screens at night, we throw sand into the gears of an extraordinarily sophisticated biological clock. The consequences are not measured in days, but in years, not in discomfort, but in disease. Wow. Next, we talk about the tyranny of artificial light. Eddie's in the house. He said, way to go. The first chapter is very good. Great, great, great. And I hope, Brother Eddie, you are saying to yourself, I got to have this for myself. I'm so much loving writing this. And let's continue. The next subchapter is the tyranny of artificial light, how progress dims our health, and talks about the invention that changed everything. When Thomas Edison perfected the incandescent bulb, stole, we might say, in 1879, he could not have known he was creating a tool that would eventually contribute to epidemics of obesity, diabetes, depression, cancer, and neurodegenerative disease. The connection is not obvious, but it is real, measurable, and increasingly well documented in scientific literature. Electric light stands as one of humanity's greatest achievements, extending productive hours, enabling new possibilities, and illuminating the darkness. Yet, like so many of our technologies, it has severed us from a fundamental biological need without our future fully understanding the cause. We gained the ability to be active at any hour, but we lost the clear signal of a day and night that our physiology depends on. The problem is not light itself, but its timing and quality. Morning and daytime light, especially the full spectrum of natural sunlight, is profoundly beneficial, signaling wakefulness, supporting vitamin D production, regulating circadian rhythms, improving mood, and cognitive function. The issue is light at night, particularly the short wavelength blue light emitted by LED screens and modern lighting, which the brain interprets as daytime even when the clock reads midnight. Light at night suppresses melatonin production, as we've discussed, but the effects cascade beyond sleep. Studies show that even a single night of bright light exposure can impair glucose metabolism the following day, reducing insulin sensitivity and increasing blood sugar levels. Chronic exposure is linked to obesity, with shift workers who experience extreme circadian disruption showing dramatically elevated rates of metabolic syndrome. The cancer connection is perhaps most disturbing. In 2007, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, classified shift work involving circadian disruption as a probable human carcinogen. The mechanism appears to involve melatonin's role in regulating cell division and suppressing tumor growth. When melatonin is chronically suppressed by light at night, cancer risk increases, particularly for breast and prostate cancers. Meanwhile, daytime light exposure in modern life is often woefully insufficient. We wake in artificial light, commute in vehicles, work in offices with windows that block crucial wavelengths, and return home often seeing minimal true sunlight. Our ancestors might have received several hours of bright outdoor light daily, with illumination levels of 10,000 to 100,000 lux. We often get minutes, and our indoor environments rarely exceed 500 lux. This combination, too little light during day, too much at night, confuses the master clock. The body no longer knows what time it is. Rhythms drift out of sync with each other, a condition called circadian desynchrony or circadian misalignment. When this occurs, virtually every system in the body begins to dysregulate. Health deteriorates in ways that seem mysterious until we understand the fundamental disruption at the chronobiological level. The Rasta reasoning, alignment with creation. The Rastafari principle of living naturally, of avoiding the corrupting influences of Babylon's systems, finds profound support in chronobiology. When we allow artificial constructs to override natural rhythms, when we believe that human invention superior to divine creation, when we think we can ignore the sun and moon without consequence, we separate ourselves from the source of our vitality. Jah's creation operates according to laws, not arbitrary rules, but fundamental patterns woven into the fabric of reality. The rising and setting of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon, the turning of the seasons. These are not inconveniences to be conquered with technology, but essential frameworks for biological health, divine rhythms that we ignore at our own peril. To live in livity, in alignment with natural laws, means honoring the rhythms built into creation. It means recognizing that the Earth's cycles are not obstacles to productivity, but templates for sustainable living. It means understanding that when we fight against these patterns, we fight against ourselves, severing the connection between created beings and the creation that sustains us. This is not ludism or rejection of all technology. It is disconcernment about which technologies serve life and which undermine it, which innovations align with natural law and which violate it. Electric light used wisely, bright during the day, warm and dim in the evening, absent at night, can serve our rhythms. Used carelessly, it destroys them. The question is whether we will be conscious in our relationship with technology, whether we will subordinate our inventions to our biology, rather than sacrificing our health to our convenience, whether we will honor the wisdom of the body that Jah designed to function in harmony with the rhythms of creation. Next, rebuilding sacred rhythm, practical paths to alignment. Morning, the foundation of the day. The most powerful intervention for circadian health is deceptively simple. Get bright light exposure early in the morning, especially within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. Step outside, even if only for 10 or 15 minutes. Let the full spectrum of sunlight enter your eyes, not through windows which block the crucial wavelengths, but directly from the sky. This morning light does more to wake you than merely wake you. It sets your entire circadian rhythm, initiating cascades of hormonal and metabolic processes timed to the day ahead. It suppresses any residual melatonin, ensuring a clear transition to daytime physiology. It elevates serotonin, improving mood and cognitive function. It sets the timer for melatonin production approximately 14 to 16 hours later, making evening sleep deeper and more restorative. Studies show that morning light exposure can alleviate depression as effectively as some medications, particularly for seasonal affective disorder, but also for non-seasonal depression. It regulates appetite and metabolism, helping maintain a healthy weight. It improves sleep quality that night. creating a positive cycle where better sleep supports easier morning awakening, which supports better light exposure, which supports better sleep. The practice of greeting the sun, of beginning the day in consciousness of the light, appearing across spiritual traditions worldwide because it aligns with biological truth. When Rastafari, emphasizing rising with the sun, when the indigenous peoples perform sunrise ceremonies, when various faiths incorporating morning prayers aligned with dawn. These are not arbitrary customs, but recognition of the profound shift that occurs with daybreak, the transition from night's rest to day's activity that our bodies are designed to honor. Make this practice non-negotiable, even on cloudy days. Outdoor light in the morning is significantly brighter than indoor lighting and contains wavelengths your circadian system needs. Even brief exposure matters. If you truly cannot get outside, sitting near a window where morning light streams in provides some benefit, though less than being outdoors. Next, the day, movement, light, and natural engagement. Throughout the day, seek opportunities for natural light and movement. The human body did not evolve for sedentary indoor life under fluorescent bulbs. Every hour of outdoor time strengthens circadian rhythms, supports vitamin D production, which itself has chronobiological effects, regulates mood and energy, and provides the bright light that makes evening darkness more effective. If your work keeps you indoors, take breaks outside. Eat lunch in the sunlight. Walk during phone calls. Position your workspace near windows. Use the brightest full spectrum lighting you can during work hours. This is when bright light serves rather than harms your rhythms. Movement itself is rhythmic. Walking, dancing, working with the hands. And these activities that our ancestors engaged in naturally provide multiple benefits beyond exercise. They signal to every cell that we are vital and engaged with life. They support the natural elevation of cortisol and body temperature that should peak in the afternoon. They help metabolize stress hormones. They prepare us for evening's gentle decline by creating genuine tiredness rather than the wired exhaustion that comes from sedentary days. The day is also when we feed our bodies, and the timing of eating has profound circadian implications. Research on time-restricted eating shows that confining food intake to daylight hours, roughly a 10 to 12-hour window, supports metabolic health and circadian alignment. Our digestive systems, like all our systems, operate on circadian rhythms, with enzymatic activity and nutrient processing varying across the day. Eating late at night, when these systems are preparing for rest, creates metabolic confusion and circadian disruption. The evening, the sacred descent into darkness. As the sun sets, dim the lights in your environment. This is not regression, but wisdom. Not inconvenience, but alignment. Use warm, toned lights, bulbs labeled 2700K or lower, which eliminate less blue wavelength light. Use dimmer switches or lamps instead of overhead lighting. Light candles. If you have access to fire, a fireplace, fire pit, or even candles, the warm, flickering light of flame provides illumination that doesn't disrupt melatonin production. Avoid screens in the 2 to 3 hours before sleep. Or at a minimum, use settings that filter blue wavelengths, night mode, blue light filters, specialized glasses. Understand that brightness also matters. A dim phone screen at minimum brightness is less disruptive than a bright tablet at full luminosity. The dimming signals the pineal gland to begin melatonin production, initiating the body's preparation for sleep. It allows body temperature to drop, a necessary precursor to deep sleep. It quiets the nervous system, shifting from the sympathetic activation of day to the parasympathetic restoration of night. The evening becomes sacred time for reflection, for community, for gentle activities that honor the transition from wakefulness to sleep. In traditional cultures, this time was filled with storytelling, music, prayer, conversation around fires. These practices were not merely entertainment, but essential rhythms of human life, activities that support circadian rhythm alignment while building social bonds. Create evening rituals that support this transition. A warm bath or shower, which triggers temperature drop as you cool afterward. Gently stretching or restorative yoga. Reading physical books by warm light. Journaling, praying, or meditation. Conversation with loved ones. Preparing for the next day in calm rather than frantic energy. And then that brings us to night, the healing dark. The healing darkness. Sleep in complete darkness. In a cool room, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is optimal for most people. At consistent times. This consistency matters more than most people realize. Going to bed and waking at roughly the same time each day, even on weekends, keeps the circadian system stable and synchronized. The sleep you get before midnight, when melatonin is highest and sleep is deepest, is particularly restorative. Darkness should be complete. Cover or remove LED indicators on electronics. Use blackout screens if street lights or other external lights enter your bedroom. Even small amounts of light can disrupt sleep quality and melatonin production. If you must use light at night for bathroom trips, use dim red lights, which have minimal effect on melatonin. During these hours of darkness and stillness, the body performs miracles of restoration that are impossible in any other state. The brain's glymphatic system becomes highly active, flushing metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours, including proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. Synaptic connections are pruned and strengthened. Memories are consolidated. Learning is integrated. Throughout the body, cells undergo repair. Damaged DNA is fixed. Proteins are synthesized for tissue building. The immune system mounts its strongest surveillance for pathogens and cancer cells. Hormones rebalance. The nervous system processes and integrates the day's experience and emotions. This is not passive time, but active healing. Impossible to achieve without proper sleep in proper darkness. Sleep deprivation or poor quality sleep has been linked to virtually every chronic disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, immune dysfunction, mental health disorders, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer. These are not separate problems, but manifestations of the same underlying disruption of the body's restorative systems. Next, we're talking about seasonal rhythms, the longer cycles beyond daily patterns. And I see a comment from Brother Eddie. He says, Brother Keaty, do you have anything in your new book about pharmaceutical meds and their use of venoms from snakes, lizards, snails, fire ants, and why these poisonous creators are used for so-called medicine? Not really. There are sprinklings of these. We're going to talk more about toxins a little bit later, but I didn't really focus on those things that you're talking about. There is a distinction between Western pharmaceuticals and holistic patterns. There's a whole section of the book that will be talking about that further. But that's a good question. And you got to let me know, Brother Eddie, when is your book coming out? That's a great question. A question like that really deserves a good deal of input. I do touch on those topics. You will hear that throughout this book. But that great question, I really appreciate that. Seasonal rhythms, the longer cycles beyond daily patterns. Beyond the daily cycle of light and dark, we're also calibrated to seasonal rhythms, though modern life largely ignores them. In temperate climates, our ancestors naturally slept longer in winter darkness and remained more active during summer's extended light. They ate seasonally, consuming different foods as the earth provided them. They moved differently, working intensely during planting and harvest seasons, while resting during winter's dormancy. Modern life flattened these rhythms. We maintain the same schedule year-round, eat the same foods regardless of season, keep indoor temperatures constant, and expect the same productivity in December as in June. Yet our biology still responds to seasonal changes in daylight duration, temperature, and food availability. Research shows that humans, like other animals, demonstrate seasonal variations in metabolism, immune function, mood, and reproduction. Seasonal affective disorder is merely the extreme end of a spectrum. Most people experience some mood and energy shifts with changing seasons, reflecting ancient patterns of activity and rest. Honoring seasonal rhythms might mean allowing ourselves more sleep in winter, adjusting our diet to emphasize foods naturally available in each season, modifying activity levels with a year's cycle, respecting the natural pull toward introspection and rest during darker months rather than fighting it with stimulants and forced productivity. This doesn't mean returning to subsistence agriculture, but does mean recognizing that annual rhythms, like daily rhythms, are not arbitrary but adaptive, that working with them rather than against them supports health and sustainability. Next, the return to natural time, choosing alignment. We cannot return entirely to pre-industrial life, nor would most choose to. But we can make conscious choices to realign ourselves with the rhythms that sustain us. We can resist the pressure to be perpetually productive, perpetually illuminated, and perpetually available. We can choose to honor the wisdom of our biology over the demands of disconnected systems. This realignment is both personal and political. Personally, it means making daily choices to live in rhythm, morning light, evening darkness, consistent sleep, seasonal awareness. Politically, it means advocating for social structures that support rather than undermine circadian health. Questioning the necessity of shift work, demanding workplace flexibility for sleep and rest, resisting the expansion of 24/7 operations, protecting darkness from light pollution. The Earth's rhythms will continue whether we acknowledge them or not. The sun will rise and set. The seasons will turn, the moon will wax and wane. The question is whether we will move with these rhythms or against them, whether we will honor the template encoded in our cells or continue believing we can override it without cost. The drum still beats. It's been beating since before we were human, since before mammals walked the earth, since the first organisms synchronized their internal chemistry to the planet's rotation billions of years ago. It will beat long after we are gone. The only question is whether we will dance to it or pretend we cannot hear its ancient call. This is the choice before us, and upon it rests not just our health, but our very vitality, our connection to the source, our alignment with a conscious root that has sustained life since the beginning. Listen to the rhythms. Feel them in your body. Honor them in your choices. Return to the natural time from which we never should have strayed. This is how we heal. This is how we align. This is how we become whole. So that takes us to the 3rd chapter of the book. And I hope you do appreciate, love what we shared with you today. I most certainly did. The book is going to be awesome. And Eddie, I see you in the house. He says, great! Exclamation points. Thanks. And Eddie, that's a good point you make. And again, we're going to be talking about these toxins much more and pharmaceuticals much more a little bit later. So we just finished. We got up through chapter 2. We are at now chapter 3. And we're moving along pretty good. It looks like I'm going to get through the whole book in about maybe 4 parts or so. So I hope you did find satisfaction in what you heard today. And we'll be with us next time we get together. It's Friday now, and I'm going to come back to the book on Monday. And I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Let me just double check, make sure I did not ignore any of my other families over here, because we do have the WhatsApp group, the Rumble family. And let me double check over here. Rumble, I have you up. And I didn't have anyone check in today on Rumble. I don't know what happened. I just never have had any incidents where I was the only one checking in. But it is what it is. It looks like what it looks like. I hope you did see the promotion for today. And I put up my logo. I did this yesterday. You saw it as we did a logo analysis program or app on our Tech and Future Talk, continue our AI classes. Let me tell you, this is really, really good stuff that we're into. We're moving into a new season. We're coming out of the winter season where we're used to slowing down and closing out. Now we're moving into the arrival of spring. And with this new arrival, I am already fired up. I noticed that the sun is coming up. It's entering my room earlier in the day. And I stopped turning on the light when I dress in the morning. I go outside and I'm running. And by the time I get outside, it's nice and light. I can see the sun is coming up when I turn certain corners, when I'm running around the block. And it's going to be a beautiful day. I'm going to go out today. I think I'm going to go today and go shopping. And when I go shopping today, I'm going to go get me some seeds for my garden and some soil for my garden. And we are very fortunate here in Las Vegas. We get an early planting season. So I'm going to be planting probably the earliest I've planted my garden in a number of years. So do the best we can with what the Creator has put in our hands. We have the opportunity to grow, to build, to learn, and to continue to moving in the direction of which our divine creation prepared us. I want to thank you all for tuning in to your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are living in black.com. I want to say peace and prosperity to each and every one of you on your favorite LIB Radio, LIB TV, living in black.com. Peace and prosperity.